Perfect. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to this instance of the Antrea community meeting. And today is Tuesday, May the 10th, or if you are on the western side of the Atlantic, it will still be Monday, May the 9th for you. For today, unfortunately, we don't have any pre-booked topic on the agenda, which means that we can go directly into open discussion. Therefore, I will ask all the attendees if they have any topic that they would like to bring up for discussion today. Wait for a few more seconds. Well, then I have some questions to ask. Nothing to discuss about, just questions to ask. So, Antonin, as you have informed on the community Slack channel, there's been a transition in the Antrea repository from Customize to Helm. Is this something that maybe you would like to share something about?
Well, not quite. So at the moment, we really only use Helm's templating mechanism. So to generate the manifest from a user perspective, there is no change yet because we haven't been releasing the Helm chart. We're discussing whether we should release the Helm chart, and there is one question that came up about how to manage CRDs because CRDs are a special kind of resources in Helm. So I opened an issue about this. I haven't had time to come back to that issue, and the decision hasn't been made yet, but this is something we need to resolve before we can release a chart so that it's user facing. I think maybe I should add that the rationale for moving from Customize to Helm was just that we kept running into a bunch of limitations with Customize, and maybe we're using it wrong. I don't know, using it for the wrong purpose. But the amount of customization that we're able to do with Customize compared to like the full power of the Helm templating engine, it was just very limited. And so we had a script to generate manifest, and it ended up doing a lot of like manual search and replace with sed, right? A sed command line utility. So it was kind of like a Frank Einstein hybrid of Customize and sed, really what we're using before. But now with Helm, we can pretty much do everything. With Helm, there is more customization available with Helm. And I think also it's possible, we don't do it right now, but it would be possible if someone decides to turn off a feature of Antrea, for example, we would be able with Helm to easily remove like the RBAC permissions which relate to that feature if we wanted to. I mean, that could add some complexity, but it would be a way to do that. And of course, once we have the Helm chart available for user installation directly, I think that users who are familiar with Helm and that use Helm to manage the software running in their clusters will appreciate that, because there is kind of like a standard way of setting resource budgets for pods, resource request and resource limits. Kind of like a standard way potentially to label things and do things like this. So another reason to support Helm. But right now we just use it for manifest generation. So we just use like the templating capabilities, really.
Cool. One more question on my side, and still from a user perspective, is there upon upgrade from Antrea 1.6 to Antrea 1.7, I do not believe that there will be any impact from the move from Customize to Helm. Is that correct?
No, because really, I mean, if you do a diff of the manifest, it's going to be pretty big just because Elm has reorganized things differently. But if you really do like a YAML semantic diff, there aren't really any differences, significant differences. And as I said, it's just used to generate manifests right now. So if someone was like using kubectl apply to install Antrea before, and they use kubectl apply to upgrade to Antrea 1.7, it's really just going to be the same. So no different there.
All right. Thanks for the clarification.
If we release the Elm chart and someone that Antrea installed through the manifest before, I don't think they can reuse Elm to do the upgrade. I think Elm is best if you Elm charts are best if you start with Elm from the get-go. And of course, for upgrades after that.
Okay, so I have a question, and actually I have a forked Antrea repository, and I added some customized configurations and CRDs to Antrea YAML. So I should also adapt my base YAML files according to the recent Helm changes, right?
If you're just adding CRDs, or adding resources, I think Elm makes it pretty easily because you just add files in the right place in the Antrea template directory, and your CRDs and your resources are automatically going to be included in the generated manifest. If you make other changes, I think you can keep using customize if you want.
Okay.
I've seen some places that customize is used kind of like in addition to Elm, so you can do some additional changes to the final manifest.
Yeah, I think the Helm template is more powerful. I saw that you can have some if statement accordingly to generate or include some part of your YAMLs accordingly. So I think I will change to use Helm too.
I think I should mention that there is one, I guess, significant change is that with Customize, the Antrea config map used to have an automatically generated suffix added to it. So it was never Antrea config. The config map was called Antrea config, and then like 8 random characters, which were based on a hash of the config map's content. Now with Elm, we use kind of like a different mechanism. So the Antrea config map is now called Antrea config. And yeah, that's and to ensure that when the Antrea config map is updated, the Antrea pods are recreated, Elm uses an annotation. Of course, that only applies if you use Elm to install Antrea and not if you install it from the manifest.
Got it, thanks.
Okay, that's a very good clarification. Is there any other question regarding Helm charts, the move to Helm, anything that you believe we should do differently? All righty. So the next question that I have is that I did not attend the last meeting, so I don't know if there is any additional follow-up from the discussion that we had on certificate-based IPsec configuration. I believe that Shu presented it. But I don't know if there is anything else that needs to be discussed on that matter.
I don't think so.
All right, perfect. Okay, so these the only other thing is the final thing that I have is that I noticed it on the community Slack channel that Janjun announced that GKE now supports network policy for Windows pods on Antrea. Well, I think that there isn't much to discuss about this. It's just very good news. I think it's great that we can do more with Windows on GKE and with Antrea. I don't know if anyone has anything else to add regarding this announcement. Otherwise, that would be pretty much it. Okay, say that I don't have anything else to bring up for today, and I will give another chance to the attendees to this meeting to bring up any topic, bug, anything that's bothering them up for discussion.
I have a question actually I saw already create a new sub repo in Antrea for our visibility and stuff. And I saw we start to put some PRs to that repo. I think it's called SIA, right? I'm not sure my pronunciation is correct.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, good to know. So I'm not sure, Salvatore, or to you, if you guys can share any more information about the plan for the Sabo project.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Alan, of course, it's not here because it's midnight for them. But hey, Zio is here. Maybe you are more up to date than me. So maybe Zio, can you go ahead and provide an overall plan for the TIA migration?
Sorry, sir. Can you hear me?
Not very well, but go ahead.
I'm still on the subway, so it's a bit noisy here. Can you help explain?
Sorry to interrupt you, Zio, but we really cannot hear you. Your voice is coming up. Yeah, you are completely inaudible at the moment. Sorry.
Maybe it's better just to reply by chat.
I mean, let's give Zio a chance to retry with audio.
I think he said he is still in subway, so I'm not sure he can.
Ah, okay, it's in the subway. Yeah.
Clearly.
No, so then I can provide a quick update there. So we are migrating all the flow visibility features to a new repository. The idea is to be able to release flow visibility components independently of Antrea. And mostly because, especially with the new architecture, we are introducing a bunch of components like ClickHouse, Grafana, which are completely independent of Antrea. Debugging, troubleshooting, and developing for flow visibility requires a different set of expertise. For instance, we are also introducing Python through Spark. Spark is another component which is used, for instance, for network policy recommendation, and Spark jobs that we are writing them in Python at the moment, because I think that Apache Spark does not yet support Golang. So for all these reasons, we are moving all the flow visibility components to this new repository. With the help, with John Sean's help, we are also setting up CI for this new repository, and the migration, I will say, is pretty much completed, but it will be staged, meaning that for Antrea 1.7 we will keep existing flow visibility functionality in we will keep existing flow visibility functionality in Antrea, but all the new features concerning flow visibility, and I think for one will be added to the TIA repository. So Antrea 1.7 will still ship flow visibility, but with the same capability of Antrea 1.6. In addition, we will remove the deprecated ELK flow visibility solution, the one based on Elasticsearch and Kibana. And we will contextually also release a 0.1 TEIA release. And this 0.1 TEIA release will also include new features, such as visualization, Grafana dashboards for visualizing flows denied by network policies, and the network policy recommendation engine. So at the moment, we are working on completing the migration. We have PRs in review for the for this new features. And to be consistent with the Antrea repository, we are also providing Helm charts for automating deployment of TIA bits. Yeah, that's I think that's a summary. Zio, I know that you have problems with your microphone, but if there is anything else that needs to be added, please let me know in the chat. All right. Any other question regarding this flow visibility migration plan?
So so far, I think we're still release visibility bits together with Antrea release, right? That's
yes, yes.
Okay.
Antrea 1.7. We will keep them in Antrea 1.7, and I'm working with the team to find a solution so that if you have Antrea 1.7 with flow visibility, and then you deploy TEIA, it will acquire ownership of the flow visibility resources, and and basically it will not create more resources, but just update the existing bits and take ownership of those.
Got it. I think one thing probably I just look at their report and found some documentation about flow visibility, the new flow visibility, I believe. I think one thing I feel a little confusing that in the Antrea repo, we also have the flow visibility doc, but I think that one probably point to the older implementation with ELK stack. Maybe I'm not really sure.
Okay, let me. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to understand. Are you saying once we switch to this new implementation and we were deprecate the old one, then probably we also update the documentation in the main repo in some way to point to the new implementation?
Yeah, okay, so if we look at the 6.0 documentation, we marked the ELK flow collector as deprecated.
Yep.
And the new one is the Grafana flow collector. The documentation is still in Antrea, but let's say that the old one, the ELK flow corrector, which is deprecated, we will just remove the documentation for 81.7. And yeah, and then let's say that the new flow visibility part will be the Grafana flow collector. Then you have a good point that we already that we still don't have a solution for distinguishing what's available as part of the Antrea release and what instead will be available on the TEIA release. My thinking is that I don't want to create a distinct documentation for TEIA. Even if there are two distinct products, I would like to keep I would like to keep the documentation in a single place as I believe this might be simpler for users, but your feedback is also very welcome here.
Okay, I think thanks to I think it's okay, probably you want to put the doc in the CR repo. But I just mean today we have 2 copies of the doc now. Actually, I'm just looking at the 2 docs. I'm not sure the relation between these 2. Probably there can be some overlapping or not. I am not very sure.
Sorry, maybe I'm not understanding. When you say we have 2 documents, what do you mean?
We have one network flow visibility doc in Antrea repo. And they also have a new one, it's called Saya network flow visibility for Antrea doc.
I see.
New repo. So.
Yes, yes, we have Antrea docs network flow visibility. Yes, and then we have it there. Yeah, you have a good point. I believe it's at least a rather confusing. I'll figure out with Alan and the rest of the team how we want to tackle this. The thing is, it should, yeah, if we have the same documentation in two places, yeah, it's definitely confusing for users. So we need to find a solution for making it easier for users to understand how where to consume network visibility from. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Probably just some temporary state before we are cleaning up the things.
Yeah, let's say that, you know, what we are doing here is at the moment we have pretty much moved the code and documentation from one repository to the other, but yeah, there are some loose ends as a documentation, because I believe that what we want to do eventually is to build the Antrea.io documentation, both from Antrea repository and the Theia repository, but that will require some additional changes also in the way we build the documentation. But I believe that for the Antrea 1.7 release, we will get there.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the feedback. And yeah, I was just, you know, I did not realize that because I was just looking at the generated documentation, not at the documentation that we have in the code repository. Okay, thanks. Well, is there any other question, feedback, any other curiosity about this new repository? Okay, and just to add something, if you are curious about flow visibility in general, because this is not something that we discuss very often about in our community meeting. A few weeks back, we had an Antrea live session about network visibility. I'm sharing on the chat the link to the YouTube recording. So if you are curious, you can go and revisit this session. Okay, and now, is there anything else you would like to discuss? I'll wait a few more seconds. And I guess that might be all for today. So I would like to, as usual, thank everyone for attending, and wishing you a good day, a good afternoon, and for our friends in Palo Alto, a good night.
Bye, good night.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
bye.
Bye bye.